Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're talking about something you might not expect, the connection between personal finance and the foster care system.
That's right.
We're going to be going deep with an expert who's working directly with these issues to uncover some pretty surprising facts and also hear some real stories that really shed light on the challenges that are out there.
Yeah,
And most importantly, we want to talk about the practical strategies that are being used to empower those who are impacted by all this.
absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much personal finance is really intertwined with a lot of the issues that we see in the foster care system.
Yeah, and it's kind of impossible to ignore the racial disparity that we see in LA County's foster care system.
Right.
Black children only make up 7% of the county's child population, but they represent a whopping 24% of the children in foster care.
Wow.
It's a huge gap.
That is a huge gap, and it really speaks to those larger systemic issues that are at play here.
Yeah.
When people face barriers to things like education and job opportunities, poverty becomes a really harsh reality.
Yeah.
And that often becomes a significant factor leading to involvement with the child welfare system.
So it's not always those like really kind of extreme cases of abuse that we often hear about that lead to intervention.
Yeah.
What's like the most common reason that families end up on the radar of Child Protective Services?
The most common reason is neglect, and
Right.
specifically physical neglect, which really boils down to the inability to provide basic necessities.
Mm-hmm.
So things like food, housing, and adequate supervision.
Okay.
And what's at the root of that?
Yeah.
Financial instability.
Really makes you think about the immense pressure on families right when they're struggling financially. It's not just about dollars and cents.
It's not.
It's about the emotional toll as well.
Absolutely. Imagine the constant worry of not knowing if you can feed your children or keep a roof over their heads. That kind of stress erodes self-esteem, it causes tension within the family, and it can even lead to job loss, which only intensifies the problem.
Wow. It's a cycle.
It is.
And speaking of real stories, we actually have one from our research that really illuminates all of this.
Oh, great.
We learned about Chrissy, a woman who entered the foster care system when she was just 11 years old, and she's kind of been battling uphill ever since.
Yeah, I think Chrissy's case is a really good example of how the system, despite good intentions, isn't always perfect.
Right.
Removing children from their homes, while sometimes necessary, doesn't automatically lead to better outcomes.
Yeah. And for Chrissy, the obstacles that she's faced in her life have been directly tied to finances.
Exactly. Things like lack of transportation options to visit her kids, inflexible work schedules that make it difficult to meet the demands of the system,
Right.
and the just astronomical cost of housing in LA all become huge barriers to reunification with her kids.
And these are all issues that many families in similar situations face.
Every day.
It's a real reality check and makes you wonder what happens to young people when they age out of the system.
Right.
We've been talking about families, but what about those kids that are facing these challenges head on as they enter adulthood?
Well, that's when you see a whole other set of challenges emerge.
Yeah.
A lot of these young adults age out without essential life skills and financial literacy that's so needed to navigate the world.
Right.
They don't have the opportunity to learn how to manage their money or how to build credit or how to plan for their future. And sadly, that vulnerability leads to an increased risk of homelessness, unemployment, and even teen pregnancy.
I was really shocked to learn about the statistic on teen pregnancy among foster youth.
Right.
Can you share that?
Yeah, so teenage girls in foster care are twice as likely to become pregnant before the age of 19 compared to their peers.
Wow.
That's a big number, and it really points to this urgent need to break the cycle.
Yeah, it's a pretty bleak picture, but I know that there is hope and there's some proactive work being done.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are some of the solutions and approaches that you're seeing out there that are really making a difference?
Well, we wouldn't be doing this deep dive if there wasn't, right?
Right.
So let's talk about empowerment.
All right.
There are proven strategies that are making a real impact, and one that I'm particularly passionate about is the Freedom Model.
Yeah.
It's a practical, step-by-step approach to achieving financial wellness, and it's designed to help anyone, really, but especially those who have faced the unique challenges of the foster care system.
I love that about the Freedom Model. It's not just theory, it's a tangible roadmap.
It is.
So can you walk us through those steps?
Sure. Freedom stands for focus on the present, not the past. Reframe limiting beliefs. Embrace and rewrite your money story. Ensure values align with goals. Deal with debt and credit responsibly. Observe and assess spending and saving habits. And finally, make and maintain a financial freedom plan.
Wow, that's really comprehensive. So let's start with that first step.
Okay.
Focus on the present, not the past. What does that actually look like in practice, especially for someone who has been through the trauma of the foster care system?
Yeah, that is a really crucial place to start because we all carry baggage from our past. But for someone like Chrissy, who's gone through the foster care system, that baggage can feel incredibly heavy.
Yeah.
So it's about helping her understand that holding on to guilt and shame for things that were outside of her control wouldn't serve her.
Right.
We worked on tools like journaling and positive affirmations to help shift her mindset and give her that sense of agency over her present.
I love that shift in perspective because it allows for moving forward instead of being stuck in the past.
Exactly. And that leads beautifully into the next step, which is reframing limiting beliefs.
Okay.
Past experiences, especially in a system like foster care, can create deeply ingrained negative beliefs about ourselves and our capabilities.
Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to finances.
Right.
Thoughts like, I'm just not good with money or I'll never get out of debt can become self-fulfilling prophecies if we don't challenge them.
Yeah. I think a lot of us can relate to that regardless of our backgrounds.
Absolutely.
So how do you guide someone to reframe those beliefs when they feel so deeply rooted?
It's about gently but firmly helping them to recognize those thoughts and then to question them.
Okay.
So we might ask, what evidence do you have to support that belief?
Right.
Or is there another way to look at the situation?
Okay.
We also explore how external factors or systemic barriers might have contributed to past financial difficulties.
Right.
It's not about erasing the past, but understanding it in a way that empowers them to move forward.
So we've acknowledged the past, we've shifted our focus to the present, and we've started to reframe those negative beliefs.
Right.
What's the next step in this journey toward financial wellness?
So this is where we dive into the heart of our relationship with money, embrace and rewrite your money story.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging that impact our past has had on our relationship with finances without letting it define us. We all make financial mistakes, and it's not about blame. It's about learning from those experiences to create a new, more empowering narrative.
It's about taking control of the narrative, right? And deciding how you want that next chapter to unfold.
Exactly.
I love that.
So for someone like Chrissy, who witnessed her own mother struggle financially, this step involved helping her separate her journey from her mother's
Okay.
and recognizing that she had the power to create a different path for herself and for her children.
Such a powerful example of breaking those cycles.
Yes.
But it's one thing to kind of rewrite the story in our minds,
Right.
but it's another to actually live it out.
Yes.
How does the freedom model help bridge that gap?
So that's where the next step comes into play. Ensure values align with goals.
Okay.
This is about getting crystal clear on what truly matters, those core values, and then making sure our financial goals reflect them.
Right.
This is crucial because when our values and goals are in alignment, we're much more likely to stay motivated and committed to our financial plan.
That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like there's a bit of self-reflection that's required here.
Absolutely.
How do you guide someone through that process?
Well, we often start with a simple values clarification exercise.
Okay.
We might ask, what are the 3 most important things in your life, or what do you want to be remembered for?
Right.
Once those core values are identified, then we explore how they connect to their financial goals. So, for example, if family is a top value, their financial goals might involve saving for a down payment on a home or establishing a college fund for their children.
It really shows how interconnected everything is.
Yes.
Financial planning isn't just about numbers.
Right.
It's about crafting a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling.
Absolutely.
And when those values and goals are aligned, it makes those tough financial choices like saying no to unnecessary spending
Yes.
or putting in those extra hours at work a little bit easier.
You're absolutely right. And that leads us to the D in freedom, which is all about dealing with debt and credit responsibly. This is especially critical for former foster youth who may be entering adulthood with little to no credit history.
Right.
Or even worse, carrying debt that they didn't even know they had.
You mentioned earlier how some foster youth have even experienced identity theft
Yes.
and have had their Social Security numbers stolen.
Yes,
It's terrifying to think about starting adulthood with that burden.
it is.
So how do you even begin to help someone in that situation?
The first step is always helping them request and review their annual credit report.
Okay.
This gives us a clear picture of what's happening and allows us to identify any inaccuracies or fraudulent activity.
Yeah.
From there, we work together to dispute errors and create a plan for building or rebuilding their credit.
Okay.
This could involve opening a secured credit card, becoming an authorized user on a responsible family member's account, or even exploring a credit builder loan.
So it's all about taking those small but crucial steps toward building a positive credit history and a solid financial foundation. So the Day in Freedom empowers individuals to take control of their credit,
Yes.
whether they're starting from scratch or working to repair past damage.
Absolutely.
And that's really about setting themselves up for long-term financial success.
Yes.
So what's the next step in the model?
So then we move on to O, which stands for Observe and Assess Spending and Saving Habits.
Okay.
This is where we roll up our sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty of tracking where our money is going and identifying areas where we can make changes.
So you mean budgeting?
Yes, but I actually prefer the term financial freedom plan.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that because I know you don't like to use the word budget.
The word budget can feel very restrictive and negative for anyone, but especially for those who are already facing financial hardship.
Right.
It can kind of evoke a sense of scarcity.
Yeah.
Whereas Financial Freedom Plan reframes it as a roadmap towards achieving goals and designing a life that they love.
I love that shift in mindset from restriction to empowerment.
Yes.
So what does that look like in practice?
So it's all about building awareness. We encourage tracking their spending for a couple of months, either manually or using a budgeting app.
Well,
This reveals where their money is actually going and highlights any areas of overspending.
all right.
We also analyze their saving habits and explore ways to automate savings or make it a more regular part of their routine.
And so it's like shining a light on our financial behavior patterns.
Yes.
And seeing where we can make adjustments.
Exactly. And you'd be surprised what we discover when we actually take the time to pay attention.
So we've covered focus on present, not past. Reframe limiting beliefs. Embrace and rewrite your money story. Ensure values align with goals. Deal with debt and credit responsibly, and observe and assess spending and saving.
Right.
What's that final step that brings it all together?
The final step, M, is about making and maintaining a financial freedom plan.
Okay.
This is where we take all those insights gathered from the previous steps and we actually put them into action. We collaborate to create a personalized plan that outlines their income expenses, savings goals, and debt repayment strategies.
Right.
It's not meant to be rigid. It's a living document that adapts as their needs and circumstances change.
So it's a roadmap, but it's flexible enough to allow for detours and adjustments along the way.
Absolutely. And it's not a one-time thing either.
Okay.
We encourage regular review, at least monthly, to track their progress, celebrate wins, and make any necessary adjustments.
So it's about building a system that supports their financial well-being
It is.
and keeps them moving towards their goals.
Exactly.
This whole freedom model is really impressive.
Thank you.
It's so much more than just financial advice. It's a holistic approach to well-being.
Right.
It tackles those emotional and psychological aspects of money that I think are so often overlooked.
They are.
And it can be applied to anyone, really, regardless of their background or current financial situation.
That's what's so great about it.
Yeah, it's accessible, it's practical, and it's empowering. And it's been incredible to hear how this model has impacted Chrissy's life.
Yeah, so Chrissy's story is a true testament to the power of this approach.
Right?
She's made incredible progress since we started working together.
That's great.
Remember how burdened she was by those feelings of guilt and self-blame?
I do.
Through journaling and practicing those positive affirmations, she began to shift her mindset and focus on what she could control.
Mm-hmm.
She started taking small but significant steps, like signing up for a budgeting app and canceling unnecessary subscriptions.
Wow.
Those might seem small, but for her, they were huge wins.
That's remarkable progress.
Yeah.
She's really embracing the freedom model.
She is, and it's been so inspiring to see her transformation.
Yeah.
She's more confident in her ability to manage her money, and she's excited about the future she's building for herself and her children.
That's what it's all about, helping people break free from those cycles of hardship and create a brighter future for themselves and their families.
You're absolutely right. It's about recognizing that financial well-being isn't a luxury, it's a fundamental human right.
Yeah.
And by providing people with the right tools and support, we can work towards a more just and equitable society for everyone.
Absolutely.
It really is. And, it's fascinating to me that this work goes beyond just empowering individuals.
Mm-hmm.
It has the potential to really drive systemic change.
Right.
When we address The financial challenges that are faced by foster youth and families involved in the system were actually chipping away at those root causes of poverty and inequality that plague our society.
That's what I find so intriguing, is that kind of ripple effect.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about the challenges, but what happens when we actually invest in financial literacy and we empower people to take control of their finances?
Right.
What kind of impact does that have, not only on their lives, but on their families and communities?
The ripple effects are huge. Like financial security reduces stress, it encourages healthier choices, it fosters community engagement.
Yeah.
It also empowers individuals to invest in their children's education,
Right.
which then creates a more stable and prosperous future for their families.
It's like a chain reaction of positive change.
It is.
It's like planting a seed that grows into this beautiful, flourishing tree.
Yes,
And the impact extends far beyond just that one individual.
absolutely. When more individuals are financially stable, it strengthens the local economy.
Right.
It reduces the reliance on social services, and it creates a more vibrant and resilient community.
So we've been focusing this deep dive on financial social work within the foster care system. But I can't help but think about its broader implications.
Yeah.
How many other systems or challenges in our society could benefit from this kind of approach?
You're so right. Think about healthcare education, even the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
These are all areas that are deeply impacted by financial insecurity.
Sure.
Imagine if we incorporated financial social work principles into these systems.
Yeah.
It could equip people to navigate complex medical bills, to avoid predatory lending practices, and to make more informed decisions about their education and careers.
It's like opening up this whole new world of possibilities and solutions.
Absolutely.
And it all starts with that core understanding that financial well-being isn't just about money.
Right.
It's about empowerment, dignity, and opportunity.
Beautifully said. And it's not just about professionals providing these services either.
Okay.
We can all play a role in promoting financial literacy and empowerment in our communities.
How so?
We can talk to our children about money. We can volunteer at organizations that support financial education, or we can advocate for policies that promote economic justice.
It's a collective effort.
Yeah.
We all have a responsibility to contribute to a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive financially.
We do.
And, it's not about quick fixes or handouts.
Right.
It's about addressing the root causes of financial insecurity and giving people the tools to build a sustainable future for themselves and for their families.
Exactly. It's about investing in people, not just programs. It's
Wow.
about providing those tools, that knowledge, that support that they need to make informed decisions about their finances and achieve their goals.
Right.
It's about creating a system that supports financial well-being, not one that perpetuates cycles of poverty.
It's a paradigm shift.
It is.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling a sense of hope and possibility.
Good.
The challenges are complex, they're systemic, but it's so inspiring to see individuals like you who are dedicating their work to making a difference.
Oh, thank you.
The Freedom Model is such a shining example of how we can empower individuals and create lasting change.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure sharing this conversation with you and our listeners.
Absolutely.
You know what really inspires me is that this work goes beyond problem solving.
Uh-huh.
It's about unleashing potential.
Okay.
By empowering people financially, we unlock their creativity, their resilience, and their ability to contribute to their communities. It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity not just to survive, but to genuinely thrive.
That's a powerful message and a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference.
Yes.
Whether through our work, our personal relationships, or our advocacy efforts.
We do.
So as we leave our listeners to ponder this deep dive into financial social work and its impact on the foster care system, I want to leave them with one final thought. So we've been focused on the foster care system this whole time, but it really makes you think about all the other areas of society where this approach could be beneficial. What other systems or challenges come to mind for you?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I think it speaks to how adaptable those core principles are we've been talking about, the focus on empowerment, understanding the emotional complexities around money, addressing those systemic barriers.
Right.
And those ideas can be applied to so many areas beyond just foster care. You think about healthcare education, the criminal justice system.
Right.
All of these areas are so deeply impacted by financial instability. And if we could integrate even just some aspects of a financial social work approach into those systems, I think we could start to see some really huge changes.
Yeah, it really shows how interconnected everything is. If you can give people the tools and the knowledge to manage their finances effectively, it really does create a ripple effect that impacts their health, their education, their relationships.
Absolutely. Their overall well-being.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the big takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to really understand about the power and the potential of financial social work?
It's about so much more than just, dollars and cents. It's about recognizing that financial well-being is a fundamental human right, and it's about giving people the tools and the knowledge to break down those systemic barriers that have held them back.
Right.
It's about equipping people to build a brighter future, not just for themselves, but for their families and for their communities.
It's been so insightful to explore this topic with you. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of the complexities and the possibilities surrounding financial social work.
Thank you.
I hope our listeners feel the same way.
I hope so too. And I want to emphasize that it's not just about listening and learning. Real change happens when we take action.
Right.
So each of us can make a difference in our own way, whether it's through our work, our personal relationships, or our efforts to advocate for policies that create a more just and equitable society.
Let's all be a part of the solution. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of financial social work.